So we spoke about different types of questions when it comes to task 1 academic. We spoke about graphs with a timeline, graphs with no timeline, multiple charts, pie charts, tables, maps, diagrams. And I told you, you might be facing one of these questions in the exam. Today, we're going to talk about letters, which is task 1 in the general training version of the IELTS exam. Obviously, when you write a letter, you know what a letter is, yeah? Like when you write a letter to your manager asking for a promotion and then you get sacked because you do not deserve a promotion, yet you're still writing a letter asking for a promotion. Letters in the IELTS have 3 different types. We have what we call formal letters. Sarah, what are you having? Shai Halib or Nescafe? Nescafe, okay. We have 3 different types of letters. Formal letters, semi-formal letters, and informal letters. Let me explain to you the differences between these types of letters. So if you look at this slide, this is what you're going to be getting in the exam. Not with the girl, not with the photo, only the text. Yeah? I'm adding photos because I love you. I want you to be engaged in the class. In the exam, they do not really care about you. They're only going to give you text. Thank you, Tuqa. I appreciate it. Yeah? And the text they're going to give you, it's going to be black and white. It's not even colored. So they almost hate you, technically. Yeah? So it's not even neutral. But because I love you, I create photos for you. So this is a sample question. In this question, I'm going to read it for you just for the first time. Yeah? You've seen an advertisement in an Australian magazine for someone to live with a family for 6 months and look after their 6-year-old child. Technically, it's a letter that you should be writing to apply for a job, to work as a babysitter. Yeah? So you should be writing a letter to the parents, and in your letter explain why you would like the job, give details of why you would be a suitable person to be employed, say how you would spend your free time while you're in Australia. Write 150 words. You do not need to write any addresses. Begin the letter as follows: Dear Sir or Madam. This is an example of what we call a formal letter. So what is a formal letter? A formal letter is a letter that you write to someone that you do not know. Someone that you do not know. An example, writing an email to the government, to a government agency. Writing an email to the local council. Applying for a job. You're writing an email or a letter to someone that you don't know. So it's a formal letter. Now we have another example. They're asking you to write a letter to your friend. This is an example of what we call an informal letter. Like not formal, the opposite of formal. When do you write an informal letter? You write an informal letter when you're writing a letter to someone that you know and you have a very close relationship with. Like your friend, your parent, a family member, someone that you're very close with. Cool? Cool. Now, the third example is what we call a semi-formal letter. Here, they're asking you to write a letter to your manager. When you're writing a letter, to your manager, this is what we call a semi-formal letter. So a semi-formal letter is a letter when you write to someone that you know the name of, but you're not close with. You do not really have a strong relationship with. So when you are writing a letter to your manager, yes, you know your manager, but you have to maintain some sort of formality. Otherwise, they might sack you. So you have to show some sort of respect, unless you want to get sacked. So to summarize, look at this table. This table summarizes the different types of letters: formal, informal, semi-formal. When the recipient means the person receiving the letter. When the recipient is someone that you don't know, this is a formal letter. When the recipient is someone that you're very close with, like a friend, it's an informal letter. When the recipient is someone that you know the name of, but you're not very close with, this is a semi-formal, like writing a letter to your manager or your neighbor, maybe. Examples: writing to the city council, writing an email to the university, writing an email to a company. This is technically writing a formal letter because you're writing an email to someone that you don't know. You don't know who's going to be reading your letter. You don't know the person who's reading the letter. That's why you always start it with dear sir or madam, because you do not know who's reading the letter. So you have to be very formal. Writing an informal letter is when you're writing to your friend, a family member, or neighbor. And pay attention to the word neighbor because you're going to ask me a question now. Okay, so you're confusing us. Okay, focus. I'm confusing you because I want you to be awake. When you want to write a semi-formal letter, examples could be writing an email to your professor. You have to maintain this sort of formality. Manager, colleague at work, or your neighbor. Isa, why do you have the word neighbor mentioned twice in the informal letters and also in the semi-formal letters? Because it depends on you. You can write an informal letter to your neighbor, and you can also write a semi-formal letter to your neighbor. That depends on your relationship with your neighbor. So you have the choice in the exam to choose the tone and the formality of the letter. Cool? Cool. So in the exam, there's no hard and fast rules to tell you whether to write informal or semi-formal. That depends on you. In some cases, yeah? When you're writing an email to your friend, it's always informal. So when you're writing an email to your neighbor, that depends on your personal preference. If you want to treat it like an informal letter, you can. If you want to treat it like a semi-formal letter, you can. Isa, everything that you're explaining is good. But what is formal? What is informal? What is semi-formal? We don't know. There's a lot of differences between formal, semi-formal, and informal when it comes to writing letters. Unfortunately, because this is a short course, if you want to explain the differences between these types of letters, it's going to take a lot of time. But in a nutshell, to summarize, when you're writing a formal letter, it is like writing something that's kind of serious, professional. When you're writing an informal letter, it's very similar to speaking to someone. You're being casual, you're being friendly, you're not being professional. You can ask questions, you can use idioms, you can use some sort of phrasal verb. It's very similar to speaking, but formal letters, it's very professional. Like you have to write, I'm writing this letter to inquire about the price of a specific item. You're being very serious. You're using very formal words. But when you're being informal, it's like talking to your friend in real life. Okay? I explain all the differences between these different types of letters in the comprehensive course on the website because there is a separate course that is about writing letters that is for or that lasts for 7 hours. So only letters by themselves. This is a very lengthy topic, just letting you know. But in this course, I'm gonna try to summarize everything. So we spoke about task 1 academic and the different types of questions. We spoke about task 1 general and different types of questions. Now let's speak about task 2, which is the same for both academic and general training version of the IELTS exam. And let's talk about the different types of questions. Ibrahim is saying it's au pair. Yeah, au pair means babysitter. Correct. In French. See, I speak French as well. A little bit. Bonjour. شوية. So how is this related? Bonjour شوية. Yeah. Bon nuit. In task 2, you're going to be asked to write an essay. An essay is a piece of writing that includes your opinion about a specific topic, or when you're discussing the views of a specific topic, or when you mention the advantages and disadvantages or the problems and solutions of a specific topic. But when it comes to the IELTS exam, there is not one type of essay that you should be ready to write. There is around 6 or 7 types of essays that you should be aware of. Number 1, I spend a lot of time creating these photos. So enjoy the photos, yeah? Look at them. Appreciate them. Give me hearts for them. Do something for them. You're not even liking the videos on YouTube. Thank you for the hearts. Appreciate it. Fran. Thank you, Taqa, for clapping for me. Tiba. Thank you. Yusuf, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm 23. I'm old now. I'm not a kid anymore. Yusuf, thank you. So, in the IELTS exam, there is a question type in task 2 that is called the opinion essay. The opinion essay is when they ask you about your opinion. I want you to look at this. Obviously, in the exam, as I told you, they're not going to give you photos. They do not really care about you. I create photos because I love you. Yeah? Look at this old man. Very charismatic man. Yeah, he's old, but he's a good looking guy. Correct? Yes, he's correct. Yeah? That's me when I'm 80. Okay, when I'm 80, I'm gonna look like this. Inshallah. Okay? So in the exam, they're gonna give you this piece of writing over here. I want you to pay attention to this box. See this box? The rectangle? The words above the box and the words underneath the box are not gonna change. They're always gonna be the same. 40 minutes, write about the following topic, give reasons, write 250 words. This is always the same. So you do not really have to read them in the exam. Don't waste your time. Read them before the exam, obviously. But during the exam, you have to read whatever is inside the box. Let me read this for you. In the future, nobody will buy printed newspapers or books because they will be able to read everything they want online without paying. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? This is a type of an essay that is called opinion essay, where you have to mention your opinion about the fact that is mentioned here. So the box is divided into 2 parts, a statement and then a question. The question here is what decides the type of essay. So when they ask you, do you agree or disagree, or to what extent you agree or disagree, this is what we call an opinion essay, where you have to give your opinion about the fact that is mentioned here, and you have to support your opinion with one or two reasons. So this is type number one, opinion essay. And you have to structure it in a certain way. You have to specifically mention your opinion, and you have to support your viewpoint by two reasons. The photo is related to the question, by the way. Just letting you know. A photo of a guy who doesn't have a face. I tried to ask ChatGPT to create the proper face, but it didn't work. Here, look here. Discuss both of these views. I just want to explain to you the different types of the questions. Discuss both of these views, or discuss both these views. They might give you sometimes two different views, and you have to discuss both of them. Look here. Some people say something, and others say another thing. This is another question type. They will give you two different opinions or two different viewpoints. Some people say something, other people say something that's opposite to the first opinion. And you have to discuss both of these views. So it's another question type. It's called a discussion essay, where you have to discuss both of these views. You have to mention reasons why the first view could be correct, and you have to mention reasons why the second view could be correct. Okay, so the first essay question type is an opinion. The second one is a discussion. And this person, by the way, is watching a movie on the iPad. That's why it's related to the question. Another question type. Discuss both sides and give your opinion. This is what I call discussion with opinion essay. They're going to give you, again, two viewpoints or two opinions, and you have to mention reasons why the first opinion is correct, and you have to also mention reasons why the second opinion is correct, and you have to tell us what's your opinion. Do you agree with the first view, or do you agree with the second view? That's why it's a discussion with opinion essay. Completing university education is thought by some to be the best way to get a job. Others, on the other hand, think that getting experience and developing soft skills is more important. I do agree with the second point of view, to be honest. Yeah? Yes, I agree with you as well. I have a university degree, but I'm looking for a job. I've been looking for a job for like 2 years now. I feel you. Another good photo that I worked hard to create. Well, another question type. Nowadays, plastic money replacements such as credit and debit cards are extremely popular, even more than banknotes and coins. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of this. So this is what I call pros and cons essay, or advantages and disadvantages essay, where they give you a fact and you have to mention the advantages and disadvantages of this trend. So you have to mention, in this case, the advantages of using credit cards and the disadvantages of using credit cards. Another question type. And this lady is using a credit card apparently to buy groceries. Okay. Another question type. Many students decide to further their studies abroad. Do you think the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? Now, this is different to the previous one. In the previous one, they asked you to discuss the advantages and disadvantages. But in this question type, they're asking about your opinion. Do you think the advantages are more important than the disadvantages? So they're asking about your opinion. So this is another question type that I call pros and cons with opinion essay. So you have to mention the advantages, you have to mention the disadvantages, and you have to tell us, what do you think? Are the advantages more important than the disadvantages or not? So you write it differently. And this is a photo of a group of students studying in Australia, international students, related to the image. Okay. This is the flag of Australia. Well, Isa, this is the UK. No, this is Australia. The UK doesn't come with the stars. This is the UK. Only this one. It's like the UK having a Zoom call with Australia. Mhm. Okay. Small flag. Another question type. Nowadays, the number of road accidents is on the rise, which means increasing. Why is this happening? What can be done? So mention the reasons and mention the solutions. This is another question type that's called causes and solutions essay, where they give you a problem and they ask you to write about the problems. They ask you to write about the causes of this problem and the solutions for this problem. Road accidents. You know when you drive a car and then the tree comes in front of you and you hit the tree. Oh, sorry, the tree hits you and it's the fault of the tree. You have to mention the reasons behind these problems, yeah? It's not your fault, obviously. It's the tree's fault, I understand. You have to mention why the trees move quickly like this. Huh? Yeah, it happens all the time. It's never my fault. Okay? So you have to mention the reasons why trees move quickly and create or cause accidents. Okay? Obviously, these are examples. It's not always going to be about accidents. Could be about other things as well. Yeah. Oh, Isa, I like this photo. It's very cute. I like it. Okay, good. In the developed world, average life expectancy is increasing. What problems will this cause for local governments? Suggest some measures that could be taken. So this is another example, or this is an example of what we call results and solutions. Essay question type. It's not like the previous one. The previous one was the causes and the solutions of a problem. Here, we have the results of a problem and the solutions for this problem. Here, which is increasing life expectancy. Yeah? People are getting old, like they're getting more than 100 years old, for example. And this is a photo of a Japanese couple having fun. Yeah? Yeah. Isa, I've never seen a couple having fun in my life. Yeah, Isa, we always have problems. Yeah. What can we do? Okay? So there's another question type. Isa, I like this photo. Let me take a screenshot of this photo. 1 second. Okay, now you can move. All right, no problem. The last question type in task 2 is what I call the hybrid essay, where they give you a statement and they ask you to do 2 different question types. What are the causes And is this a positive or a negative development? They're asking you here technically about your opinion. So it's a hybrid essay. They're asking you about two different essay types in one essay. Causes and your opinion. Or could be advantages and your opinion. Or could be problems and your opinion. Hybrid. Two questions in one question. Okay? In this case, many countries' populations are made up of different cultures and ethnic groups. You have to mention what are the reasons behind this and what is your opinion. Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Asma is asking, is this problems and solutions? You talking about this or the previous one? The previous one? Yeah, problems and solutions, yes. Or results and solutions, same thing. So why am I showing you all these different types of questions? Because each one of them is written differently. Each one of them is answered differently. Each one of them is structured differently. Each one of them is tackled differently. Just want to tell you that it's not one question type. Different. They are different. Obviously, they do have similarities, but they do have differences as well. Okay? Just a quick recap. Opinion, discussion, discussion with opinion, pros and cons, or advantages and disadvantages, same things. Pros and cons with opinion, causes and solutions, problems and solutions, hybrid, which means a mix of two different essay types. You like the photos that I created? Look at them. Good, yeah. You're never gonna forget them, yeah. The good-looking old guy, the faceless guy, a good-looking handsome guy, a good-looking lady, a multicultural group of students. Mena was driving here apparently. An old couple in Japan, a multicultural group of citizens in the United States. Sorry, Mena. Yeah, it's the tree's fault. I know. It is the tree's fault. Okay. So now we covered all the different question types. Task 1 academic, task 1 general, task 2 scoring. Now it's getting serious. Brahim, Alex, wake up, please. Yeah, focus with. Thank you, Yusuf, for telling me that the photos are great. I appreciate it. There is a criteria to meet. Make your work complete. Isa, why do you wink when you say this? You look suspicious because I want you to pay attention. Criteria to meet. Make your work complete. Okay, Isa, how do we make our work complete? Let me show you. Okay, Isa, can you please show us? Okay. How do they give you your score in the writing exam? Isa, what's wrong with your eye? Something wrong happened. All right, let me show you. In the writing, they're gonna give you two scores. One for task 1 and one for task 2. Task 1 is worth 33.3% of your score. In other words, 1/3 of your score, because you only have to write 150 words for task 1. Task 2 is worth 66.6% of your score because they ask you to write 250 words. So more words than task 1. That's why it's worth more marks. Isa, I have a question. What's your question? There is 0.1% missing. Okay, I took this because I've been teaching you for a very long time. So this 0.1 mark is for me. Okay? So you take 99.9%. Can you give me this 0.1%? No, Isa, I want to take everything in this life. No, you have to be generous. Give me this 0.1%. Okay, Isa, take it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So task 1 is 1/3 of your mark. Task 2 is 2/3 of your mark. Thank you, Aya, for laughing. I appreciate it. Makes me feel good about myself. Thank you, Tuqa. I appreciate it. Tuqa, are you from Jordan or Iraq? Iraq? I forgot. Iraq, yeah? Aya? Tuqa is Jordan. Aya? What? Are you having a carrot? What are you doing? What is that? What does this mean? Iraq. Okay. I thought it means Jordan. Okay. So you're going to get 99.9% in writing. Okay, so now I understood how they give us the mark. But how they do give us the actual mark for task 1 and how do they give us the actual mark for task 2? Based on what? They give you these marks based on something that is called the marking criteria. And for me to be able to show you this, I have to stop sharing my screen and share another screen. So focus with me. Oh, actually, it's the same screen. Let's go back. Isa, what's wrong with you? You're wasting our time. Okay, my bad. I apologize. What are you having? I'm having the zanjabil. What are you having? Yansun. Forgetting? Means Yansun. Okay. In Arabic. He said, oh, now I understand the joke. Ha, 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 ha. Forgetting Yansun. Yeah, does make sense. That's what they call a dad joke. Like it's a joke that's not that funny. Yeah. Now, pay attention. When you write your essay or report or letter, the examiner is going to mark your writing based on 4 different marking criteria. So they're going to evaluate your writing based on these different marking criteria. And they will see, are you doing well or are you doing bad? The first marking criteria that they're going to assess your writing based off is what they call task achievement. Task means question. Achievement means achieving the question. In other words, answering the question. So this is one marking criterion that's called task achievement or task response when you answer the question. And they're going to give you a mark for this marking criterion. And now I'm going to be explaining what each and every single one of these marking criteria means. So relax, okay? I know you still do not understand what this means. I will explain it in the following slide. So task achievement, they're going to give you a score for task achievement and they're going to give you a score out of 9. And this criterion is worth 25% of the mark if you answer the question. The second marking criteria, or the second marking criterion that they're going to be assessing you based on, is what they call cohesion and coherence. Cohesion, coherence means organization. How organized your writing is. Cohesion means unity. How united your writing is. How linked your writing is. I will explain this in the coming slide. And they're going to give you another score out of 9, and this is also worth 25%. Thank you, Tuqa. Let's clap for Tuqa. She's saying connecting ideas. Clap for Tuqa. Asma, clap for Tuqa. Yeah. Thank you, Tuqa. Appreciate it. See? I want you to react. Afnan, where's your daughter? MashaAllah. All right. So 2 marking criteria. Exactly. Making the writing related to each other. The sentences related. Good. Good. The third marking criterion is what they call lexical resource. Now, the word or the phrase lexical resource is just another fancy way of saying vocabulary or words. They're going to give you a score based on the level of the words that you use. And they're going to give you a score out of 9, and it's also worth, guess, 25% of your mark. Nof, come teach in front instead of me. Come. Come. Yeah, because you've been mentioning everything in the chat. Yeah. Mm. The fourth one is what they call grammatical range and accuracy. Now, this one does not really just mean grammar. It means grammatical range. So you have to use a lot of grammatical structures, a wide range of structures, and accuracy. All of them have to be accurate or correct. And I will explain this in the coming slide. They will give you a 9 in this marking criterion. 25% of the mark. The overall score is also going to be a 9, which is 100% of the mark. In other words, this means for you to be able to get a very good score, you have to pay attention to all of these different marking criteria. You have to write something related to the question. You have to answer the question. You have to achieve the task. You have to make your writing organized and linked to each other. You have to use a good range of words. And you have to use good grammatical structures in a correct way to get a 9. Do some people get a 9? Yes, some people do get a 9. It's very difficult though, especially in writing. It's easier to get a 9 in speaking than in writing. But some people do. Maybe William Shakespeare will get a 9. Yeah? Is this your daughter? MashaAllah, how many kids you have? 3? I think this is the 4th one, no? The third one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. MashaAllah. Okay. God bless them all. They're a headache. Cool. You understood this table? Obviously, you didn't understand it well. You only understood that we have 4 marking criteria. Now I will tell you what each and every single one of them means. Now it's going to make sense. For this, I have to stop sharing the screen. Inji, love you, Nof. Nof, love you more, Habibti. Okay, take her number. Take her number. Okay, let me share the screen. Gufran, why are you sad? Are you sad? You're not sad? You sure? Shouldn't be sad. We want you to be happy. Please be happy. Hmm? All right. Now pay attention. Now, if you want to explain this instead of me, because you know everything. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Ibrahim, you want to go to bed? You're tired. Everyone is tired. I'm tired as well. But this is life. We have to work hard. All right, pay attention. Now, for task achievement, this is, by the way, this is very important. You have to pay attention. Task achievement is one of the marking criteria. For you to be able to get a good score in task achievement, what do we have to do? I will start with task 2 because it's worth more marks. The first thing that you have to do to get a high score in task achievement is hitting the minimum word count. This means you have to write at least 250 words. So if you write 240 words, you're going to get a very bad score. For task 1, academic, you also have to hit the minimum word count, 150 words. For task 1, general, you also have to hit the minimum word count. So this is, as they say in English, the lowest hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing that you can do, hitting or reaching the minimum word count. 250 for task 2, 150 for task 1. Good? Thumbs up if it's good, because you are sleeping. Wake up. Okay. Number 2. It's called task achievement. This means achieving the task. This means responding to the task. This means answering the question. So you have to answer the question. In task 2, you have to answer the question. In task 1, you have to answer the question as well. You say, what does that mean, answering the question? Obviously, I'm going to answer the question. I will tell you how to answer the question. In task 2, when they ask you about your opinion, you have to mention your opinion clearly. You have to make your opinion crystal clear. In other words, as clear as crystal. You have to say, I agree, or in my opinion, I disagree, or I think that, blah, blah, blah. You have to make it very clear. If you do not mention your opinion, when they ask you to mention your opinion, it's going to affect your score. Clear? Clear. You also have to present and support the main ideas. What do I mean by this? When they ask you a question in task 2, you have to give main ideas. Let me give you an example so you understand. When they tell you, for example, using social media is on the rise these days. Do you think this is a positive or a negative development? They're asking you a question about social media. They want to know your opinion. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? You have to mention your opinion. You have to say it's a bad thing. For example, I think that the increasing use of social media is a negative development, for example. The main ideas, these are the ideas that you are using to justify your opinion. So when you say social media is a bad development, you have to say why. For example, you should say it's a waste of time. Number two, it's maybe a source of bullying, for example. Some people bully each other on social media. So you have to give the main ideas to justify your position or your opinion, and you have to support them. This means you have to develop these ideas. Like when you say they are a waste of time, how they are a waste of time, mention. When you're saying they are a source of bullying, how can they be used for bullying? Yeah. So you have to mention your opinion. You have to mention the main ideas to justify your opinion, and you have to develop the ideas. You have to deep dive into your ideas. And you also have to address all the keywords mentioned in the question. So when they ask you about social media, you have to use the word social media in the question. When they ask you about your opinion, you have to mention something related to your opinion. So you have to address the question. Let me give you an opposite example so you understand. Let's say they're asking you a question about smoking. And they asked you that, or they ask you to write about this topic. Smoking has a lot of negative effects on the older population. Mention the causes and the solutions, for example. Pay attention. They're asking you about smoking or the effects of smoking on the older population. If you only speak about the effect of smoking, you will get a 0. Because you should write about the effect of smoking on the older population, not in general. So you have to be very specific, very exact when you're answering the question. Because a lot of people, when they read the word smoking, they just write anything about smoking. So if you're not very specific, they're going to reduce your score. Okay, so this is the second point, answering the question. The same thing applies to task 1. In task 1 academic, you have to summarize the main differences, the main trends, and the main stages. When they give you a graph, you have to summarize it. And I will show you an example. Do not worry. Everything that's shown here, I'll show you how you do it in a real life example. So do not worry. Yeah, I have to explain it. You also have to support and present the main features, the most important features, the most important things that you notice when you see the graph. Yeah, like what is the maximum number or what is the minimum number? Yeah, these are the most important features of the graph. And you also have to make a comparison between the lines or between the rectangles or between the tables and the pie charts. So if you do not do this, this means you're not answering the question. This is for task 1 academic. When you're writing a letter, you also have to mention the purpose of the letter. You have to be very clear. Like, I'm writing this letter to complain about something, or I'm writing this letter to ask for a pay rise, or I'm writing this letter to ask for a promotion. The purpose of the letter should be very clear. And you also have to present and support the main ideas or the bullet points. Because when they ask you to write about, or when they ask you to write a letter, they always give you bullet points. These bullet points, you have to present them and support them. I will show you an example, so do not worry. And again, all the keywords mentioned in the question have to be addressed as well. Very similar to task 2. And I will show you an example, do not worry. In task 2, to get a good score, you have to avoid overgeneralization. What do I mean by this? Do not say, for example, social media is always negative. No, it's not always negative. You're overgeneralizing. That's not true. You should say social media can sometimes be negative. So you have to use what we call softening language. Do not be very general when you talk, because this means you're not being accurate. In task 1 academic, you have to avoid inaccuracy. What do I mean by inaccuracy? When they give you a graph and there's like a line that's below number 60, for example, do not say it's 60. You have to say this is below 60, almost 60. Yeah, very close to being 60. Yeah, so you have to avoid inaccuracy, because if you say 60, well, it's not 60, maybe it's 60.1, and I will show you how it's done. Do not worry. Task 1 general, again, avoid inconsistency and inappropriacy. When they're asking you to write a letter to your friend and you write it in a formal way, this is called inappropriate tone. So when they're asking you to write a letter to your friend, it has to be informal. When they're asking you to write a letter to your manager, it has to be semi-formal. I know that it's overwhelming, a lot of information. I know. It's fine. I will show you show you an example, and everything is gonna make sense. So just bear with me. I will go through these quickly. It's not gonna make sense to you now, I know, but when I show you the actual task 2 and task 1, you will understand. So it's fine. How to get a good score in coherence and cohesion? You have to use paragraphs. You know, when you write, you have to use an introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion to make your writing structured and organized. Each one of the paragraphs has to have a clear theme or a central idea. Yeah? Do not talk about a lot of ideas in one paragraph. No good. All your paragraphs have to have a logical progression. So, for example, if you're talking about problems and solutions, you should talk about the problems first and then the solutions. What's wrong with my voice? You should talk about problems and then solutions. For example, logical progression. Yeah. You have to use a wide range of cohesive devices. What do I mean by cohesive devices? Cohesive devices are linkers, words and phrases that link things to each other. For example, in addition, furthermore, because of, as a result. These ones are called cohesive devices. The word device means like word or a phrase. Cohesive means linking. Okay. Well, you understood it, yeah? Coherence and cohesion technically means to make everything organized and everything linked to each other, like this. Lexical resource is just another way of saying vocabulary. You have to use related vocabulary. What do I mean by this? When I'm asking you to write a topic about education, you should use words related to education. For example, universities, curriculum, teachers, educational institutions, certificates, graduation, yeah, employment rate, for example. All of these words are related to the topic. You should avoid using the same words. If you keep using the word, for example, teachers, 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 you're going to get a 0. Sometimes you use the word teachers. Sometimes you use the word lecturers. Sometimes you use the word academic professionals. Sometimes you might use the word professional staff, whatever. You know what I mean? But you do not use the word teachers, 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 teachers. Do not keep using the word problems. No, sometimes you say problems. Sometimes you use the word negative consequences. Sometimes you might be using the word concerns. You got it? You should use uncommon words. What do I mean by this? Instead of using the word schools, which everyone uses, sometimes you should use the word educational institutions, for example. Everyone knows the word school, but not everyone knows the word institution. It's a little bit higher level. Yeah. So Yusuf is saying, so the point is not to overuse the same word. Yes. If you keep using the same word again and again and again, you're gonna get a zero. Well, not a zero. You're gonna get a bad score. Okay. So for example, reasons. Instead of saying reasons, you can say reasons, causes, driving factors, contributors. Yeah. Do not use the same word. Sometimes you you have no option but to use the same word, but if you can, try to change it. Pay attention to word choice. What do I mean by this? When you're writing a letter, you have to use a proper tone. If it's formal, you have to use formal words. If it's informal, you have to use informal words. When you're writing task 2 essay, it has to be a formal essay. Yeah. How to know the differences between formal and informal words? There's a big table that's it's part of the course on our website, but you can also Google them. There's a lot of words that are formal that cannot be used in everyday life, and there's a lot of words that are informal that cannot be used in formal situations. For example, when you say to your friend, "Let's hang out," hang out is a very informal word. It's not professional. You cannot say it in a formal situation. Yeah. Collocations. You have to use collocations accurately. What do I mean by collocations? Collocations is when you use two or more words naturally that normally come together. Chunks. Yeah, Abdurrahman, that's correct. For example, when you say mistake, do we say I made a mistake or I did a mistake? Type in the comments because you're sleeping. All of you are sleeping. Type in the comments. Do we say make a mistake or do a mistake? Make. Did. Asma, Asma, come on. Asma, do. Sarah is saying do a mistake. No, you never do a mistake. You always make a mistake. So even though when you say I did the mistake, I can understand you, but it doesn't sound natural. Native speakers do not say I do a mistake. They say I make a mistake. So when you use a group of words together, and this group of words sound natural, this is what we call a collocation. They come natural and they sound natural. Very similar to Arabic, by the way. Yeah. Certain words, they always come together. Yeah. When you do someone a favor, do you do someone a favor or do you make someone a favor? You do someone a favor. Yeah. It's a collocation. How do you check it? You check it using the dictionary. Do you want me to show you how to check it? Yes, I don't care. Do not make spelling mistakes. Obviously, this is common sense, right? There's two different types of spellings in English. American spelling and English and the British spelling. In the IELTS exam, you have to stick to one style. If you're writing with an American spelling, keep everything using the American spelling. If you're writing using the British spelling, keep everything British. For example, the word color. Color. How do you write it? Color, correct? Or Colour. One of them is American, the other one is British. Correct, Yusuf. The word specialize. Is it ZE at the end or SE at the end? The first one is American, the second one is British. So you should be aware of what's British and what is American, and do not mix them up. Okay? So be careful. Word formation. That's a lot of information for you. Maybe I think I should delete some of these things. It's very advanced. I have to simplify it next time. That's okay. Because this is if you want to get a 9. He said, I want to get a 5. Yes, I want to get a 5, for God's sake. Yeah, I'll simplify it next time. Are you an English teacher? I think you are. Yeah. She's only the English teachers are interested. The other ones do not care. Like Sarah, and for God's sake, man, I just want to write an essay. Can you just, for God's sake, show me how to write an essay? I don't care about this. I want to memorize sentences and just type them. Yeah. Maybe I should create a course for English teachers and a course for people like Sarah. So what do you mean by people like Sarah? I mean, good people like Sarah. Right. Lisa, I'm not gonna attend next lecture. I don't care anymore. All right. Word formation. When you say the word help, for example, it's a verb. When you want to make it a noun, it's also help. When you want to make it an adjective, you say helpful. So you're changing the form of the word from verb to noun to adjective. This is called word formation. So if you show the examiner, you know how to change the word from a verb to noun to an adjective, this is going to get you a good score. When you say the word appear, you can say appear as a verb, and you can also say disappear, which is the opposite of appear. And you can say appearing or disappearing. All these words are originating from the same source, which is appear. So if you show the examiner that you know how to do all of these changes, it's going to get you a good score. All right. How to get a good score in grammar? You have to use complex structures. What do I mean by complex structures? Complex structure is when you use long sentences. Make your sentences a little bit longer if you can. I will show you examples so it's better. But this one, make your sentence a little bit more complicated, and I'll show you how to make them complicated. Use a wide range of structures. You know when you use if you study, you will succeed, the conditionals, yeah? When you use passive voice, yeah? When you use the more the better, the more you study, the higher the score. All of these ones are different structures that you should be using in the IELTS exam to show the examiner that you have a wide variety of structures. Do not make punctuation mistakes. When there is a comma, you have to add a comma. When there is a full stop, you have to add a full stop. When there is a question in the informal writing, you have to add a question. And most of your sentences should not have mistakes. So most of my all of my sentences are gonna have mistakes. Yeah, yeah, but this is for you to get a good score. If you want to get a 5, it's okay. All of them can have mistakes. It's okay. Okay, so take a screenshot of this because now I want to show you an essay, and I'm gonna explain using this table. So take a screenshot. Look at the image and look at the slide. You should spend around 40 minutes on this task. Write about the following topic. Now I'm going to show you my serious personality. Yeah, do you want me to show you the serious part of me? Do you want me to be serious or funny? Both? Okay. Deforestation caused by human activity is happening in many parts of the world. What are the causes? What solutions can you suggest? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. So, this is a question that now I'm going to be showing you the answer for. In our comprehensive course on our website, when I write the answers, I write them with my students word by word. But obviously, if I want to do this now, we're not going to finish. So I'm going to show you the written essay, and I'm going to be explaining to you why this essay is a good essay. Okay? What type of essay is it? You should know. It's about causes and solutions. When you have a causes and solutions essay, this means you have to write the causes, at least two causes, and at least two solutions of this problem. And if you do not know the meaning of the word deforestation, do not go to the exam, because you're going to be talking about another topic, obviously. That's why I have this picture. Okay? So it's technically the cutting down of trees. Okay. It's a big problem. Why is it happening and what are the solutions? Now, let me read you a good essay that I wrote. And let's discuss why this is a good essay based on the 4 marking criteria I explained to you. Okay, Salman? Let's pay attention. Let me read the entire essay first, and then I'm going to analyze it with you. Having my milk. Pay attention. I'm going to read the entire essay, so focus. This essay is getting around 8.5 to 9. So it's almost a perfect essay. Why am I showing you this, Sarah? Even though you want to get a 5, I know. Just to see how a good essay looks like. You don't have to do the exact same thing, but just to know, okay? I'm going to read it with my serious voice. In recent years, the world has been facing a variety of environmental concerns. One of these is the irresponsible cutting down of trees. This essay will discuss the main causes of this problem and propose some possible measures that can be taken. There are a number of factors that are responsible for the problem of global deforestation. Illegal agricultural activities are widely believed to be one of the main drivers of this problem. This often happens due to the growing demand for poultry and dairy products from consumers, which makes farmers take over forests and clear trees for cattle ranching so they can maximize their production. In addition to agriculture, urbanization also plays a major role in exacerbating this problem. This occurs as a result of the ever increasing population, which forces local authorities to convert more forests into residential areas by mass removal of trees. While there are no quick solutions to this growing concern, the following approaches can certainly help. First, reducing meat consumption should be taken into consideration. This is because the less meat people have, the fewer animals that are slaughtered. This, as a result, leads to fewer grazing areas, which eventually reduces the number of trees that are cut. Another step that can be implemented is introducing strict laws that criminalize such a practice. Little can individuals alone achieve without the support of the government. Not only will this help in putting a stop to the illegal forest destruction, but this might also encourage manufacturers to start producing eco friendly products which are made of recycled materials. To conclude, there are several reasons for the problem of deforestation, but its impact can be mitigated if the aforementioned measures are adopted. Okay, so I like it. Now, can you please translate into English? Uh, so, I want you to pay attention. Do not worry. You do not really have to write it this way to get a 7. Yeah. You said I want to get a 4.5 only. 4.5. 4.5. Don't even attend the course. Just go and write your name. Remember the screenshot I told you to take about the marking criteria? Pull it up, because now I want to explain based on the screenshot that you took to tell you why this is a good report. Number 1. 1 second. Task achievement. How many words do we have here? Look. 283 words. This means it's more than the minimum word count, which is 250. This is the first tick. Look at the screenshot I told you to take. Yeah? So we are reaching the minimum word count. Obviously, in the exam, you cannot aim for 250. You should aim for 260, 270, 280, because you cannot be exact. Okay? So 283, that's perfect. Under task achievement, did we answer the question? Yes, because they're asking us to talk about deforestation. We spoke about deforestation. Did we present a clear position or a clear opinion? No, because they didn't ask us in this question about our opinion. They didn't tell us to mention our opinion. So in this essay, there is no opinion. If you mention your opinion, your score is going to go down. So this is a neutral essay. We're talking about the problems and we're talking about the solutions, the causes and the solutions. We're not mentioning our opinion here. Did we present and support the main ideas? Focus with me. Talking about causes, right? The first body paragraph is about causes. Solutions, the second body paragraph is about the solutions. But what are the main ideas? When it comes to causes, I want you to pay attention. We mentioned 2 ideas related to the causes of this problem. The first one is the illegal agricultural activities. This is cause number 1. Cause number 2 is urbanization. So we mentioned very clear causes to the problem of deforestation, which are illegal agricultural activities and urbanization. So we presented the main ideas, and we have supported the main ideas. Look here, when we mentioned the illegal agricultural activities, we explained why these are a cause. This means we are developing the idea. We're mentioning the reasons. And when we spoke about urbanization, we developed the idea. We supported our idea. Same thing applies to the solutions. We also mentioned two solutions. Solution number one was reducing meat consumption. Solution number two was introducing strict laws. And for each and every single one of them, we supported that idea. Okay? We supported that idea. So we presented our ideas, the causes, we have two causes, the solutions, we have two solutions, and we mentioned why these are proper solutions and why these ones are proper causes. This means you're answering the question. Is it clear? So if you only say, for example, one of the causes is illegal agricultural activities, and you do not support it, you do not say how it's a cause, you're not going to get a good score. You have to mention the idea and you have to support the idea. Okay? Are you looking at the screenshot? Are you having your tea like Abdul Rahman? Tea with mint. Having tea with mint. Okay. Now, cohesion and coherence. Using paragraphs. Can you see the paragraphs clearly? We have one paragraph, another paragraph, a third paragraph, and a fourth paragraph. We have an introduction, we have a conclusion, we have body paragraph number 1 and body paragraph number 2. So this is what we call coherence. Things are organized. And the paragraphs are clearly separated. Can you see that there is a space between this paragraph and this? There's a space. You can see that it's a separate paragraph. Do not do this in the exam. For example, look. You're writing everything using one paragraph. 0. Well, not 0, but you will get a bad score. See? Everything is in one paragraph. No. You should separate them. A very easy mark to get. Okay? Coherence and cohesion. Does each paragraph have a central topic or a central theme? Yes. This body paragraph is talking about the factors that are responsible for the problem of deforestation, which means the causes of the problem. So the entire paragraph is technically talking about the causes. So there is a central theme for this body paragraph, which is causes. And there is a central theme for the second body paragraph, which is the solutions. And to make it even clearer to the examiner, I always like to include what I call a topic sentence. And a topic sentence is the first sentence in each paragraph that tells the reader what the paragraph is about, to make it very clear that this paragraph is about this specific topic. So if you, for example, if you only read this sentence, there are a number of factors that are responsible for the problem of deforestation. Without even reading the rest of the paragraph, you know that we're talking about the factors that are responsible for the problem of deforestation. We're talking about the causes. We're talking about the reasons. So it's very clear. So this is what we call a topic sentence. And if you read this sentence alone, without even reading the rest of the paragraph, you would know that we are talking about the approaches that can help solving this problem. It's very clear. By adding these topic sentences, you're making it very clear to the examiner that this body paragraph is talking about a central theme, and this one is talking about a central theme, central topic. That's why it's coherent, it's organized, it's arranged properly, not like a salad. Yeah? He said, but I like salads. They're healthy. Yeah, they are healthy. But you have to have salads first, and then the main meal, and then the dessert. You cannot have all of them together. Correct? So here's the salad, and here's the dessert, and these are the burgers. Yeah? This is maybe a pizza, and this is a burger. The main meals. And this is the salad. See, salad's small. And this is the dessert. Maybe brownie with ice cream, vanilla. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, this is the introduction and this is the conclusion. To conclude, you're making it very clear that this is a conclusion. Yeah. And this is an introduction, and you're mentioning that it's an introduction in a very clear way. You're saying that this essay will discuss the causes and the problems, or the causes and the measures. We're still talking about coherence and cohesion. Yeah. Look at the screenshot. So we have paragraphs, we have central theme within each paragraph. Now, do we have an overall logical progression? Are you looking at the screenshot, or are you just looking at me? You're looking at the screenshot. Not me? You can look at me, but I'm not gonna help you in the exam. Look at the screenshot. So the third bullet point in coherence and cohesion is having clear overall progression. What do I mean by this? I want you to pay attention. Overall progression. What does that mean? You have to have clear progression within the paragraph itself and within the essay. Isa, what do you mean? The paragraph itself is composed of sentences. The sentences inside the paragraph should flow naturally. The sentences inside the paragraph. And the paragraphs, all of them should flow naturally compared to the previous paragraphs. Like this should be very clear that this is the introduction, and this one should be after it, and this one after it, and this one after it. Isa, what does that mean? I want you to pay attention. Here we have an essay that's talking about the causes and the solutions. We mentioned the causes first, and then we mentioned the solutions. That's called logical progression between the paragraphs. Okay, and if you look at the introduction itself, the introduction itself is composed of sentences, and these sentences, they also have to follow a logical progression. All the introductions in all the essay types, by the way, when I write them, I like to write them using 3 sentences. It's like a triangle, like an inverted pyramid. The first sentence is what I call general background statement. So it's a background statement about the topic. The topic is about deforestation. The first sentence is not going to be about deforestation. It's going to be about something that's a little bit more general, like you're zooming out. We're talking about environmental problems in general. The second sentence is when you paraphrase the question. You technically write the exact same words that you have here, but using your own words. So you are zooming in. on the topic a little bit more. And then the third sentence is what we call the thesis statement. This is the sentence where you mention what the topic or what the essay is going to be about. The essay is going to be about the causes and the measures. So you are talking about a general background statement, something that's very general, and then you're talking about the topic of the question, you're paraphrasing the question, and then you're talking about the essay itself, what the essay is going to be talking about. There is a logical progression. Okay? And the same thing applies to the body paragraphs as well. You go wide and then you keep zooming in. So here we're talking about having a lot of factors or a lot of reasons or causes for the problem. And then you mention one of the problems. And then you mention why this is a problem. So you go from wide to narrow to narrower. Clear, logical, natural flow of ideas. Is it clear? Is this clear? Yeah? The fourth bullet point under coherence and cohesion is to have a wide range of cohesive devices. As I told you, the word cohesion means unity. When things are linked together, we call them cohesive. Like we can call a society a cohesive society. This means it's a society that is strong. They are attached to each other. People love each other. People care about each other. You know what I mean? They're not separated. The same thing should apply to your essay. The sentences within each paragraph should be cohesive, and the paragraphs within the essay should also be cohesive. Again, the sentences inside each paragraph, I get very excited. The sentences inside each paragraph should be cohesive, and the paragraphs inside the essay should also be cohesive. Let me give you an example so you understand. Your family, you, your mom, your dad, your brothers and sisters, you should be cohesive. You should like each other, even though you fight all the time. But let's assume that you're cohesive. And then your family and the other families, like your uncle's family that you never speak to, and your aunt's family, you also have to be cohesive to make the society cohesive. You got it? Okay, whatever. Okay, let me show you based on this essay. Focus here. So when we say cohesive devices, this means cohesive words, cohesive phrases, words that link sentences and words that link paragraphs to each other. Focus with me. Let me look at the paragraphs first. When you look at the introduction, we mentioned what we called here the thesis statement. In the thesis statement, we mentioned the reason why we're writing this essay. The essay will discuss the main causes of the problem and propose some measures or some solutions. Measures means solutions, by the way. Okay. So we mentioned in the introduction that this essay is going to be talking about the causes and the solutions. Clear. In the first body paragraph, we mentioned the causes, which we call them here factors, but we do not like to repeat the same word. In the second body paragraph, we mentioned the solutions, which also means measures. So we're linking the introduction to the first body paragraph and to the second body paragraph. And then we link the conclusion to the first body paragraph because reasons means causes, which also means factors. And measures. Okay. Measures means solutions, means measures. Can you see how all the paragraphs are linked together? The introduction is linked to the body paragraph number 1 and to body paragraph number 2. The conclusion is linked to body paragraph number 1 and also linked to body paragraph number 2 by mentioning the same words. Is it clear? Is it clear? They are also linked to each other in other ways, but I'm not gonna explain everything because you're gonna get bored. But you read it alone on YouTube. Yeah. And now I wanna show you how the sentences inside each paragraph are linked together. I'm gonna show you an example. Look here. Let me read some of the sentences here. There are a number of factors that are responsible for the problems of deforestation. Focus. Illegal agricultural activities are widely believed to be one of the main drivers. When you say this problem, what do we mean by this problem? We mean the problem of global deforestation. So the second sentence, if you read it alone, it's not going to make sense. When you say, illegal agricultural activities are widely believed to be one of the main drivers of this problem. Which problem? Which problem are you talking about? So you have to read the first sentence. So the second sentence is not going to make sense without reading the first sentence. This means they are linked together. Is it clear, Ali? The third sentence, when you say this, what do you mean by this? For you to understand what this means, you have to read the previous sentence. So you're linking the third sentence to the second sentence. So the second was linked to the first. The third was linked to the second. You got it? So this is when you have sentences linked to each other within the same paragraph. Cool? Cool. So we covered task achievement and we covered coherence and cohesion. These two are clear, correct. Third marking criterion, lexical resource. Use related vocabulary. What do I mean by related vocabulary? These are the words that are related to the topic. If you're talking about space exploration, for example, you should talk about the moon. You should talk about Mars, not the chocolate, but the planet. You should talk about rockets, maybe. You should talk about NASA, maybe. Yeah. Words related to the topic. Yeah. But if I tell you to talk about space exploration, and then you mention words that are related to family, well, it has nothing to do with space exploration. You're going to get a 0. Galaxy, which is also a chocolate. Yeah. Abdurrahman. Galaxy, which means the group of planets. Yeah. So here the topic is about deforestation. So we should mention words that are related to the topic. What are these words? Environment or environmental, trees, farmers, poultry, urbanization, agriculture, grazing, manufacturers, whatever. All of these words, there's a lot of them obviously, are related to the topic of deforestation or cutting down of trees or environmental problems. Yeah. So you have to use words that are related to the topic because this is how they assess how good your English is. That you have words that are related to the topic that you can use. The second bullet point is not repeating the same word. Look, not repeating the same word. I want you to pay attention. What is the main topic? Deforestation. What is cutting down of trees? It's also deforestation. What is this? It's also deforestation. When you say this problem, this is also deforestation. When you say this problem, this is also deforestation. When you say mass removal of trees, this is also deforestation. When you say this growing concern, this is deforestation. You got it, yeah? So you should not be mentioning the word deforestation all the time. Because this doesn't tell the examiner that you know how to paraphrase the word. Okay. Using uncommon lexical items. This means using difficult words or high-end words. For example, look here. Hello, finish quickly because I get bored as well. Let me have a sip of my milk. Abdurrahman is very excited. Thank you. Yeah? Using uncommon lexical items or using uncommon words. What does that mean? When you say, for example, mm, poultry. A lot of people do not know this word, which means meat and milk. Yeah? Poultry products. A lot of people do not know. So if you use it, this means you're using not very common items, not very common words. Dairy. A lot of people know milk and yogurt and cheese, but not everyone knows the word dairy products. So this is an uncommon word. Najwa says that she knows the word. Let's clap for Najwa. You know it, but a lot of people do not know it. Okay? But we are proud of you, Najwa. Thank you. Yeah? Let me give you another example. Urbanization, which means creating cities. Yeah? Or constructing cities. A lot of people do not know this word. Najwa, do you know this word so we can clap for you again? You're a vet. Okay, good for you. She, Najwa, she doesn't know urbanization. See? Okay? So these words, let me give you another. The word slaughtered, for example, which means killing animals to eat them. A lot of people might know the word kill, but they wouldn't know the word slaughter. So when you use this word, this means it's a high-end word. It's uncommon word. This means you're gonna get a higher score. So you got what I mean by uncommon lexical items, yeah? 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 I'm talking to you, please. Yeah, interact with me so I feel encouraged. Okay. We're almost done. We're almost done. Thank you, Ismail. Ali Ismail. Using collocations. A collocation, like what I told you, when you make a mistake, you don't do a mistake. Yeah? And you do someone a favor. You do not make someone a favor. These are the words that normally come together and they sound natural. We used a lot of good collocations here. For example, when you say measures that can be taken, you take measures. You do not do measures, for example. Widely believed. These two words, most of the times you can hear them together. This is widely believed to be. Growing demand. It's also a good and a strong collocation. I'm not going to show you all of them, but you know what I mean. Yeah? Yeah. A lot of words are used with a group of words, and these words sound natural together, and you should use them. How to know? Who knows how to use strong collocation? Salman, do you know how to know which one is a strong collocation and which one is not? Salman? See, Salman doesn't know. Let me show Salman. Salman, I like to use this dictionary, Longman Dictionary. You type a word, for example, the word mistake. You want to know, do you make a mistake or do you do a mistake? Which verb shall we use with this word? So you look up the word. When you scroll down, it's going to show you the collocations. These are the words that normally come up with this word. See? You make a mistake. This means these words are heard together. You correct a mistake, or you realize a mistake, or you admit a mistake, or you say mistakes happen. So these are the collocations that come with the word mistake. And these are the groups of words that make you sound natural when you use this word. Let me give you another example that's related to this. For example, maybe midges. Maybe it's there. Not all the words have strong collocations, but let me show you. Maybe it's there. Meja, this is when it's used as a verb. We need it when it's used as a noun. Yeah? So when it's used as a noun, you scroll down. Meja, when it's used as a noun. Let's see if it has collocations. Here you go. Collocations. Take midges. See? When I used it, what did I say? Midges that can be taken. So it sounds natural to the examiner. This means you're going to get a good score. See? You take images. We are taking midges to improve the situations. Yeah? Is it clear now, Salman? And you can ask ChatGPT, by the way. These days, everything can be done using ChatGPT. Yeah? But sometimes ChatGPT does make mistakes. So it's better to use a good dictionary. Okay? So collocations, we used a lot of good collocations. Good. Spelling mistakes. Obviously, there's no spelling mistakes because there's nothing that's underlined. In the exam, if you make a spelling mistake, even if you're doing the computer exam, it's not going to underline it. You cannot do this, for example, and correct the mistake. Yeah? In your dreams. It's not going to happen. Yeah? Yeah? So you have to be careful. There's no mistakes. And you have to use the same English spelling style. British English or American English. Do not mix them up. Yeah? Who knows which English or which spelling am I using here? Is it American or British? Let me know in the comments. I don't even know myself. Let me check. British. This is British. Why? Because look here, the word maximize, it's with an S. If you write it with a Z, it's going to be a mistake. Look. Should be underlined. 1 second. Let me check what sort of English am I using. Okay. And language. Look. United Kingdom. If it's the United States, well, it should be underlined technically, yeah? You know what I mean. Yeah? So when it's maximized with an S, it's British. When it's with a Z, it's American. Okay? So do not mix them up. Word formation. Word formation is when you change a verb to a noun, to an adjective, to an adverb. Let me show you some examples. When you say irresponsible, I showed the examiner that I know the word responsible and I know how to add a prefix to show the opposite. So I made it irresponsible. Like when you say approval and disapproval. Yeah? When you say like and dislike, responsible, irresponsible. When you say help and helpful. So you're creating multiple words from the same word to show the examiner that you know how to create different forms of the same word. This is going to get you a good score. like residential. The origin is reside, which is a verb. Reside, resident, residential. Yeah. Even deforestation. The origin is forest, forest, forestation, deforestation. Yeah. Grow is the verb. Growing is an adjective. I think you get the point. Yeah. So when you show the examiner that you know how to create multiple words from the same word, this tells the examiner that you're a good student. Is it clear? Okay, we almost finished, so don't cry. Oh, grammar now. Your favorite part. Use a variety of complex structures. Now I'm gonna show you the complex structures. I'm not gonna explain to you because they're complex. Yeah, well, let me show you. What do I mean by complex structures? In simple words, when you say, for example, my name is Salman. I am 28 years old. I am a dentist. These are simple sentences. See, very short. If you use them in the IELTS exam, you're going to get a 0. Like, don't say, for example, deforestation is a big problem. Deforestation has many causes. Deforestation has many solutions. To conclude, deforestation is a big problem. You have to make the sentences more complex. How? By using conjunctions. For example, because, although, while, but, when, whenever, so that, in order to. These ones are called conjunctions. When you add them to your sentences, you are technically linking two ideas together. When you say, I'm trying to come up with an example. When you say, I want to immigrate to Canada, full stop. I'm studying for the IELTS exam, full stop. We have two sentences. When you read them, they are separated. They're not linked together. So instead of saying, I want to immigrate to Canada, I'm studying for the IELTS exam. You can say, I'm studying for the IELTS exam because I want to immigrate to Canada. So now it's becoming a little bit more complex or more compound. You got it? So if you can link and merge two ideas or more in one sentence, please do. Correctly, if you can. Okay? You can also say, while I'm studying for the IELTS exam, I'm having a cup of milk. See? Studying for the IELTS exam is one idea. Having the cup of milk is another idea. And you link them using the conjunction while. So this is what we mean by complex structures. Let me show you some examples here. Look at this one. While there are no quick solutions, the following approaches can certainly help. Like, even though there's no quick solutions, these solutions can help. We created one sentence from two ideas. And we added a comma here to separate them. When you say, there are several reasons, but See, but is also a conjunction. Where is Abdurrahman? Hmm? But, because, if, while, although, so that, all of these ones, try to use them if you can. Clear? Clear. Using a wide range of structures. So you can use the ones I told you, but, because, therefore, while, all of these ones. Okay, this is a little bit advanced, but don't get scared. I'm just gonna explain quickly, yeah? Look here, when you say, the less meat people have, the fewer animals that are slaughtered. This is an advanced structure in English that's called the double comparative. Yeah? When you say, the more you study, the higher the score. Yeah? So this is a structure that's advanced. When you use it, if you can use it, it's gonna get you a good score. If you can. If you don't know how to use it properly, don't use it. So if there is a structure that you do not know how to use it properly, do not use it, because it's gonna backfire. You're gonna make mistakes. Yeah? He. Little can individuals alone achieve. This is called inversion. Yeah? Instead of saying individuals can achieve little, you're saying little can individuals achieve. When you start with something that's a little bit negative, like little or not only, you're starting with the helping verb and then the subject. It's a little bit advanced. Do not worry about this one. But I just want to show you that to get a good score in grammar, you have to flex your muscles. You have to show the examiner that you are like, you know what you're doing. In other words, you can write the entire essay with no grammatical mistakes, and you can still get a 5 in grammar. Even if there is no single grammatical mistake, you can still get a 5. Because you have to use grammar, you have to use a wide range of grammatical structures. They're not asking you to write using correct grammar only. No. Correct grammar and a wide range of grammatical structures. Clear? Is it clear? The idea is clear, yeah? Okay. Punctuation. You should use punctuation properly, yeah? Full stops. A lot of people do not use full stops. They do not use commas, yeah? You have to pay attention to full stops, capital letters. These are very easy marks that you are leaving on the table, as they say. Always start with a capital letter, finish with a full stop. Capital letter, finish with a full stop. Capital letter, finish with a full stop. And use commas when you're introducing a sentence using these phrases. In recent years, comma. First, comma. To conclude, comma. Yeah? These things you should be paying attention to. A lot of people do not use commas, do not use full stops, do not use capital letters. You have to be careful. The majority of your sentences should be error-free. Yeah, there's no mistakes. So this is an example to show you how this marking criteria has been implemented in this essay. I know it's kind of overwhelming, but you got the idea. You do not really have to remember the table. Just remember 4 things. Your task achievement, writing 250 words and answering the question. Coherence and cohesion, writing in paragraphs, linking everything to each other. And then lexical resource, I have to use words that are related to the topic. I should not repeat the same words. I should use high-end words. Okay. Grammar should use a variety of structures. Just keep these 4 things in your mind to get a good score. Do not just write randomly without planning. Is it clear? You wanna cry? All right, we're done for today. This is the end of today's class. I know it feels overwhelming. It feels overwhelming, but just letting you know, task 1, academic, on the website is 14 hours. It's a 14-hour course by itself. Only task 1, academic. Task 1, general, is 7 hours by itself, writing letters, just by itself. Task 2 is 10 hours. So we're talking about 14 and 7, that's maybe 20, almost 35 hours. Yeah. So I'm trying to explain to you 35 hours in 2 hours. This is how it is, yeah? If you want to get a good score, you have to study. If you want to get a 5 like Sarah, don't study. Yeah? But for example, Salmana, maybe you want to immigrate or you want to do a master's degree. They're going to ask you for at least a 7 in writing. And to aim for a 7 or to achieve a 7, you should aim for an 8. Because if you aim for a 7, you might get a 6. You know what I mean? So forgive me for giving you a lot of information. And by the way, on the website as well, just letting you know, there is a separate course that's just about grammar, how to use complex sentences, how to link them to each other, how to use them in the introductions, how to use them in the conclusions. And these ones are also in addition to the 35 hours I told you. So when I tell you conjunctions or cohesive devices or although or while, all these things, an inversion, yeah. So forgive me if you feel like things are complicated a little bit, yeah. I can teach you simple stuff, but you're not gonna benefit that much, to be honest.